Hungarian Folk Tales. Pepperpot Peter. Once upon a time, there lived a king who lived in doleful sorrow because he had a daughter who limped. His daughter wept and cried day and night because if someone came to court her, they up and left straight away. The king was afraid that his only daughter would spinster her life away, and so he sent the word across his kingdom that whoever could cure his daughter would live in wealth until the day he died. Now so many swarmed to the castle that the doorknob always had a hand on it, but the king's daughter still limped. Pepperpot Peter also went to try his luck. They called him Pepperpot Peter because he was really very little. So off went Peter and went on his way until he came upon a poor woman who was carrying a heavy load of wood. "Let me help you, old lady. I'll carry this," said Peter. And while the old woman was trying to thank him, he had already stacked the wood for her. "What brings you to this distant land?" asked the old woman just when Peter was bidding her farewell. "I'm off to cure the limping daughter of the king." "Well, fine it is that you met with me, because only I know what the cure is. But it's not easy to get hold of." "Well, tell me which way I have to go." "Listen carefully, son. On the summit of the glass mountain, there's a little lamb, and around its neck, there's a golden bell. If you can ring that bell 3 times under the girl's window, then you are sure to cure her. And how can I find my way there?" "Only with the magic horse of the king of the giants. And no one has ever been able to get it out of its stable." Pepperpot Peter thanked her for her directions, and off he went without stopping until he came to the castle of the king of the giants. Under the gate was a hole, and through he went, straight to the stables. He tried to untie the magic horse. The horse let out such a whinny that the king of the giants fell out of his chair. For lest I forget, the king was at his dinner. Well then, off he ran straight to the table. Peter, in his great fear, turned into a flea and hid in the manger. When the king of the giants left, Peter climbed out again to untie the tether of the magic horse. Again the horse let out a whinny, this time so loud that the king hit his head against the wall, and off he ran to the stables without pause for thought. Once again he saw not a soul because Peter turned into a flea and hid in the manger. The king gave the horse a good whack. Why should it be whinnying when no one was hurting it? At his 3rd try, Peter managed to untie the horse. In vain it whinnied. The king didn't go to the stable. When Peter got through the castle gate with the magic horse, it whinnied so loudly that the walls of the 3 bastions trembled. The king came out in a rage and saw that his horse had been stolen. He jumped on the back of a tomcat and off he went after Peter. Peter was very pleased with the horse. The moment he set his spurs to it, the horse flew to the glass mountain. There he saw the little lamb with the golden bell dancing in the silken meadow. He went up to the lamb, but when he tried to take the bell off the lamb's neck, an angry little devil popped out of the ground. "I've been waiting for you, you good-for-nothing," he told Peter, shook him fiercely, and ordered him to make a barrel in the woods. When Peter had finished, the little devil went out and sat on the rim of the barrel and said, "Now I'm going to stuff you into the barrel, you thief." Peter saw that this was no joke and suddenly turned into a bee and stung the little so hard on the finger that it fell backwards into the barrel. Peter quickly put the lid onto the barrel, leaving a tiny hole so the little devil wouldn't suffocate. He took the bell off the lamb's neck, jumped onto the horse, and didn't stop until he got to the window of the limping daughter of the king. He rang the bell for the first time and saw that the bushes and trees started to dance. Then he rang the bell for the second time, And the court chamberlain and all the courtiers came out with the king himself, and everyone danced and sang. He rang the bell for the third time, and then the king's daughter opened the window. Pepperpot Peter asked her to dance with him, and she didn't limp, not even a step. So joyful were they all that no one wanted to stop the revelry. Well, my son, you have cured my daughter. Marry her and make her your wife for life. With that, he took the crown off his head and gave it to Peter, and he was just about to try it on when the king of the giants arrived on the back of the tomcat. You can imagine the panic. The king of the giants opened his mouth wide and swallowed down the whole court in one gulp. He didn't even hiccup. He only spat out the trees and the bricks the way that someone else spits out cherry stones. Peter, at the last moment, had jumped aside and hidden in the trouser pocket of the king of the giants. There he was safe and sound. The king himself was so full that he could hardly breathe, so he sat down on the ground. Pepperpot Peter waited until he had fallen asleep. Then he climbed out of the pocket, called 1,000 spiders together, so that he couldn't move. Then Pepperpot Peter somersaulted across the belly of the giant, and it burst straight away, and the people of the court were saved. 99 tailors sewed up the stomach of the king of the giants. By the time they had finished, the giant had slept it off. But he didn't have such a good time at Peter's wedding feast, for all he could eat was 3 oxen. A month and a day after the wedding, Peter took possession of the kingdom under the name of Pepperpot Peter the First. And that's the end of my story. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Cursed Castle. Once upon a time, long ago and far away, there lived a poor woman who had a daughter. They were both so very poor that they had to live in a crumbling house, and that was all they had. One day the old woman fell ill, and she called to her daughter, "My sweet darling daughter, I am sure I shall soon die. I have nothing to leave you, so you should go, find work as a servant, and try to live as best you can." And with that, she closed her eyes and died. She was buried by the people of the village because her daughter had no money to pay for the funeral. All she had was a blanket. So she took her blanket and off she went to see the world. From time to time she tried begging for food or shelter, but nobody ever gave her anything. The people said, "You're strong enough to find work," which was true, but the girl was lazy. She found shelter in a garden and stayed there until summer passed. Then, when autumn came, she hid in sheds and barns and stables. One fine day she arrived in a town, and it was there that she heard that the king had a castle for sale. The castle would be sold to the person who would not haggle or bargain but pay the price on the spot. So the girl thought to herself, "I will buy that castle. I'll lie and say that I have the asking price." And she did exactly that. She went up to the king, telling him that she would buy the castle. "Well, well," said the king has as many windows as there are days in the year, and as many doors as there are days, and rooms as there are months, and that is why the price to pay is 365 florins, no more, no less. If you can pay up without bargaining, the castle will be yours." "There will be no bargain, your majesty. I do not have the money with me now, for many debtors owe me this amount, but I promise to pay you back as soon as I get my money." and all you have to do is set a deadline. Very well, young lady. Let us agree on 365 days. Very well, she thought. That is exactly 1 year from now, and even if they hang me after that, on my dying day, I will be able to tell everyone that I slept in a real royal castle. The king gave her the keys, and the girl walked up to her new room. Once she was there, she inspected all 12 rooms, one by one. Then she locked the door and placed one half of a blanket on the floor and used the second half to cover herself. All of a sudden she heard something that sounded like a meowing cat. Meow, meow. Poor cat, you must be as lonely as me. So she got up and let in the cat. It was a horribly fat black cat. Come over here. Come on, lie next to me and start purring into my ear. Then at least I won't feel lonely. The cat cuddled up next to her and purred so sweetly that the girl fell fast asleep. When she woke around daybreak, she couldn't find the cat anywhere. She reached for the key which was under her head where she put it. The door was locked, the windows were closed. How could the cat have left the room? Well, anyway, if you've left, you've left. You surely know how. When evening came, she lay down once again. The cat returned once more, and so she asked it. Where have you been? How did you get out? But the cat just started meowing, and as it opened its mouth, a magnificent diamond rolled onto the floor. The girl picked it up, turned it around in her hand, not knowing quite what it might be. Finally, she put the stone into a pot and pulled the cat next to her. The cat started purring and the girl fell asleep. This continued for a month and a day. Just wait, I'm going to find out about that cat, the girl thought. And she did exactly that. When the cat appeared in the evening, she stroked it gently with loving care. The cat put down the gemstone from its mouth and the girl placed it in the pot. The cat started purring to send the girl to sleep, but this time the girl only pretended to slumber. And all of a sudden, when the cat thought that the girl was already fast asleep, the animal sprang up, stamped once with its foot, the door swung open, and in a moment, it was gone. The girl did the same. She also sprang to her feet and raced after the cat. The cat ran along a long corridor leading into the castle. There were doors on both sides, but the cat did not enter any of them. When it reached the very last room, it stamped with its foot and entered. The girl followed it in. When she stepped into the room, she saw a door opening in the wall. There were stairs leading downwards. The cat started descending. The girl followed it, and lo and behold, there were magnificent trees on both sides of the stairs. The girl broke 2 little twigs from each of them, but when the twigs broke, they started jingling, and this caused the cat to turn around. Had she not hidden behind the tree, it would certainly have discovered her. But the cat decided to walk on, and as it went, the girl heard beautiful music coming from down below. When the cat reached a spot, it did a somersault, and when it landed, it had turned into a heartbreakingly handsome young prince. Music was playing, and there were smiling people and great merriment everywhere. The girl observed everything she saw before she finally went back to her room. That evening, the cat returned once again, bringing yet another gemstone in its mouth. It dropped it in front of the girl. The girl pretended not to know a thing about it. You're such a good-for-nothing cat. Where have you been again? You keep escaping from me. But the cat just kept on purring, cajoling the girl, and after a while the girl said, I know where you've been. I know who you are. I've seen everything. Look at this. This is the proof. The cat let out a scream so loud that all the windows broke. Then it shed its skin, and the girl was looking at a very handsome young prince standing right in front of her. The cat-turned-prince said, I was cursed to live as a cat until a girl came and discovered where I was going. Now that you have discovered my secret, I will let you have all of these gemstones. Sell them to a jeweler and use the money to pay for the castle. And so it happened. The girl paid the price for the castle, she married the prince, the wedding feast was grand, and they both lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Poor Man and the Dog. Once upon a time, there was a poor woman who lived together with her poor husband. They didn't have a thing in the world that they could call their own, except for a brood of children and a filthy little pig. Once they found themselves so utterly penniless that it well nigh drove them out of their wits. The woman said to the man, "Listen, my husband, let's slaughter the pig. You take the pig fat to the town and sell it, and I'll cook a fine meal for the children." So they slaughtered the pig, but its fat was as thick as my little finger. So the man wrapped the pig fat into a little bundle, tied it to the end of a stick with a piece of twine, and set out to the town to sell it. He walked over hill and dale until suddenly a dog sprang out of a ditch and started snapping at his heels. "Woof, woof, 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 woof. Hey, you mongrel, leave me be. Don't hold me up. I'm going to the city to sell this pig fat. I want to make a little money." Woof, 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 woof. What's that? What's that? You say you want to buy the pig fat? Well, I'll sell it to you, but will you pay for it? Woof, 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 woof. You'll pay for it in 3 weeks from now? That's a long time, but I myself am poor. I know what it is to be without money. Fine, it's yours, but 3 weeks from now, I'm coming back for the money. And if you don't pay, I'll beat you until you beg me for mercy. So the man took the bundle of pig fat from the stick, the dog grabbed it in his teeth, trotted back to the ditch and started to chomp and chew at it with great delight. When the poor man arrived home, his wife was waiting for him at the gate. "Dear husband, did you bring home any money?" "Money? No, I have not brought home any money." "Blessed Lord, what have you done with the pig fat?" "The pig fat? I sold it." "Then tell me, to whom did you sell it? Who was the shameless wretch who didn't pay?" "I gave it to a dog." "Blessed Lord, how can you have been such a fool as to give the pig fat to a dog?" "He told me he would pay for it in 3 weeks from now." "Dear husband, tell me, how did you speak with the dog?" "Quite easily. I asked questions. He woofed." "Dear husband, you are a fool." And from then on, the woman teased and taunted her husband, calling him a fool and a half-wit. But the man really was a little thick in the head, and he paid her no mind. The 3 weeks soon passed, and the man took his stick in his hand and set off to get the money he was owed. He went over hill and dale, and when he reached the spot where he had first seen the dog, the little mongrel leapt out of the ditch. It wagged its tail and barked at the man. "Woof, woof! Woof, woof, woof! Woof, woof! So, little dog, here we are. I have come for the money. Woof, 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 woof. Enough of your woof woofing, give me the money." But the dog only woofed some more. Woof, 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 woof. The man became angry and he hit the dog with his stick so hard that the little dog yelped in pain, ran back into the ditch and started to dig. And it dug and it dug and it dug, and lo and behold, a little barrel of money rolled out of the dirt. The man was overcome with joy. Goodness me! Forgive me if you can, little dog, for having struck you with my stick. I never imagined you were so wealthy. I'll take half the money to pay for the fat and half as interest. So then he took the little barrel under his arm and set off, proudly swaggering home. Once inside, he dumped the countless coins on the table. The children rushed in and started spinning and rolling the little coins. The man and the woman began to discuss all the things they would buy. They were overjoyed. But alas, the man in his joy could not keep his silence. He walked the length and breadth of the village and cried out at every gate, "We're rich! We're rich! At last we're rich!" His wife snapped at him, "Foolish man, be quiet. Our relatives will hear that we have come into money. They will rush to our doorstep and beg us to give them some." But she cautioned him in vain, and the man continued to boast and brag. One day the woman said to her husband, "Dear husband, it's cold and rainy. Go stand by the stove under the chimney where you can warm yourself." The chimney in the poor man's house opened up to the sky, and when it rained, the water dripped down onto the coals. The woman went up to the attic with a bucket of water. There was still a bit of sausage left over from the pig. She threw it into the water and poured the whole bucket, sausage and all, down the chimney, onto her husband's head. When he felt the little pieces of meat falling on his head, the man ran out of the house. "Dear wife, did you see? It's raining sausage." "I see, dear husband, I see. And do you know why it's raining sausage?" "It's raining sausage so that we may remember the time we suddenly found ourselves rich. If someone asks you when we came into a hoard of gold coins, you tell them it was the day that sausage rained down from the skies. Do you understand?" "I do." Barely 3 days later, the judge arrived with 2 policemen. "Show us the gold coins. We all know you recently came into a hoard of gold coins." "Your Honour, gold coins? When did we ever have gold coins?" Her foolish husband answered, "Dear woman, have you forgotten? It was the day sausage rained down from the skies." "Ah, yes, Your Honour, my husband is not quite right in the head. For never has sausage rained down from the skies, and never did he or I come into a hoard of gold coins." The judge and the policeman laughed heartedly, for the world is indeed full of fools. The poor man and his wife enjoyed their new riches, and they all lived happily ever after.